Hey, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're a subscriber. I really appreciate it. Today's video is going to be a bit heavy, but it's something that needs to be explored, discussed, and expressed. This video is about my understanding and exploration of Roe versus Wade historically, and the cause and effect of Roe versus Wade on the health of America the past several decades. I have to say, there's a lot of things that are, that I feel are turning for the worst in our country. And one of the things that is a fact is that I feel like we've become this society of enablers and blamers, and very self-victimizing. And what I mean from that is, when you watch like a talent show like American Idol, how much of it is it about their talent, and how much of it is them always trying to get some type of pity from the judges for something that has nothing to do with how well they sing? To me, that is manipulative. And I'm going to give you one simple example, and I'm sure that it's not just the state of Ohio. But a couple days ago, it was the primaries in Ohio. So local elections, and specifically issues having to do with Ohioans. And they did a poll, they did statistics, and they found out that out of the roughly 8.1 million Ohioans, that only 1.1 million would actually vote, get out and vote for those primaries. So, there's this huge disenfranchised, conspiracy theory loving, self-victimizing, underprivileged population that are going to continue and to bitch and complain about the people and the laws and the way things are going. And those are the very people who did not take the time to learn what was on the ballot and go out and exercise their civil right, the right to vote, that basic thing that everyone takes for granted now and rarely takes time for, that many women and people of color actually died for, to give us the right to vote. And it's despicable. Yeah, I'm going to judge this, because it's another thing I really hate about society now, is people go, oh, you're so high and mighty and you're so judgmental. Well, guess what? Yeah, because I have to deal with people that are so self-victimizing and take no personal responsibility and want to blame things that don't exist or the boogeyman for their circumstances when they're taking no personal responsibility as adults. So I'm going to jump into this Roe versus Wade thing. I had to take notes because it's a pretty complex issue. But I feel that if we don't learn from history, then we have no hope. That's in regards to war, that's in regards to the environment, that's in regards to medical care, that's in regards to pandemics. So the idea of Roe versus Wade being reversed. One thing that you have to understand that actually happened when Roe versus Wade, the decades following after Roe versus Wade was passed, was that the crime rate went down dramatically. And why do you think the crime rate went down dramatically? Well, because there were hundreds and thousands of unwanted births, people who fit the demographic of poverty, struggle, abuse, and unwanted births that weren't brought in to this world to suffer. That's why. And I grew up in a neighborhood where 12-year-old girls got pregnant. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this confidently. Ideally, all human life is precious. Ideally, we're all created equal. But as a matter of fact, it's not true. It's just not true. Because if we were, we would all have equal rights and equal living conditions and equal education, and we would all be living around the same level. And the fact is, when you're born into poverty, it's hard enough. When you're born into poverty because you were forced to be born, and you were born to a teen mother, you were born because you were a product of incest or a product of rape, or you just basically didn't have the resources for the woman to make the choice, statistically, you have a huge chance of failing, a huge chance of failing. And my therapist told me that I was a statistic anomaly because literally, probably comfortably 97% of the kids I grew up with and went to school with wound up addicted, in prison, or both, or perpetuating the chain of poverty, having kids they couldn't afford, and getting girls pregnant that they had no intention of taking responsibility for those children, marrying. So cut to today. Look at the homeless rate. Look at the addiction rate. Look at the lack of resources and the huge divide between the haves and have-nots. Do you really think it's a good time right now to take away a woman's ability to make that choice for herself? You know, here's the thing. Another thing that's changed in society is that men don't even try to be noble anymore. Men, it just sickens me. It sickens me because the lack of responsibility and the lack of reality that a lot of men have today. They just plant their seed, they brag about their kids, and they have a kid from not just one different woman, but several women. These boys, men that live like boys, can't even afford to take care of themselves because they never got an education, they're addicts, or they just came from poverty and they just can't get out of it. And then they bring 1, 2, 3, 5 more kids from several different women into this world so they can suffer and perpetuate the chain of poverty. So right now, people are struggling in general. And what are we going to do? Force women, take away their resources to bring more unwanted children to suffer into this world and further stress out our system in the United States? It's not only a bad plan, it's cruel. It's cruel. And trust me, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen the quality of lives that kids have growing up without two parents, growing up without the basic resources. And we live in a capitalist country that you have these conservatives that want to keep everyone alive and take away a woman's right to make the decision, which is really interesting because it's the woman who carries the burden. We can't stop people from having sex, but we can give them resources like the Plan B drug to take control of a mistake that they've made. Or if something tragic happened to them, like a rape. Or, you're young, you're making mistakes, you overdrink, and shit happens. And the next day, if you have the wherewithal to take control of that, you should be able to easily and affordably get a solution to that. But there's only 19 states that have access to that pill, the no abortion pill. Only 19 of our states. So another thing that is a fact that really burns my ass. So we're living in a country that healthcare is unaffordable and almost unobtainable. Mental health care, good luck with that. Education, forget it. And yet a lot of the conservatives and the Christians want to force women to have these children that they can't care for. Okay, I understand. You have a religion and you have a belief system that all life is precious. But if you're going to do that, this is what I don't understand about a lot of the Republicans and a lot of the conservatives. If you really feel that way, you cannot vote against welfare, child care, health care, and all the things that a single mother is going to need living in poverty to give a child any type of quality of life. But this is what the conservatives do. Oh yeah, they raise their huge, moral Christian flag and want to keep every baby alive. But then when it comes down to giving those children the same quality of life that they can afford to give their children, they're like, no, don't. They can't feed off the system. They're mooches. No, I'm not going to fund that. I'm not going to pay for that. This is America. Everyone takes care of themselves. Do you see the hypocrisy here? It's a huge hypocrisy. So, Roe versus Wade. To reverse Roe versus Wade is going to be a nightmare, in my opinion. It's a huge step backwards. It's going to, again, put women's lives in danger. I don't know how people forgot this. Before there were legal abortions, thousands and thousands and thousands of women died from people trying to abort children themselves and back alley abortions. They were also made sterile. It was a horrible thing, a horrible, horrible thing. And we're going to return to that. Do you think that is Christian? Do you think that is moral? No, it's not. It's backwards. It's backwards thinking. And I'm not telling you not to believe what you believe in. Believe what you believe in. But if you're going to believe what you believe in, you have to step up and be consistent with your morals and with your beliefs. And that means if you believe in the right to life, then you better also follow through with voting for every issue that supports these single mothers and impoverished families that cannot afford to raise a child, and who's going to simply raise a child in complete poverty and suffering, because that is full morality. That is following through with a kind moral gesture, not forcing someone to do what they want to do or taking away their rights and resources to take responsibility for their lives and understand where their limitations are, and then judging them and taking away the resources to raise a population of children that are actually good for America, instead of a population of children that are broken. And what about, I was like writing down statistics. What about the huge population? And it is like, from what it says, 66% of children that will be born to unwed mothers or women that try to access abortions are Latino or African American. So you could say, oh, well, they could just have these kids and put them up for adoption. Well, the problem is if you're an addict and you have a child and people are looking for a child to adopt, that kind of puts the merchandise at the lower shelf because people want a healthy baby. Number two, how many people, except for stars, are especially, these heavy-duty Republican white folk from the upper crust are adopting children of color with defects, children of color with learning disabilities, children of color that were born into addiction. You know, look at the statistics. It's a mess. It's a mess. What else do I have in my notes? I guess I could wrap that up. That's most of it. Yeah. So you really want to think about this, people. And, you know, if you don't believe me, look up what I've said. And then tell me that America is doing the moral and just thing and can afford to reverse Roe versus Wade. All right. Bye for now.